Oh, hi there. My name is Dan Amrick, and I am One of Swords, and this is One of Swords TV, where I try to answer the questions that you send me about Activision or Activision games or whatever. Send it to YouTube at oneofswords.com, and I'll do my best to try to answer it on a future episode. I have a question here that is near and dear to my heart from a guy whose name I cannot pronounce. I'm sorry if I get this wrong. Davon Bivins, possibly Davon Bivins, not sure, but he's a fan of Blur. He reminds me at the beginning of this email that we played online a couple of weeks ago in my Playing with Swords sessions. If you're not checking my website, oneofswords.com, and looking at Playing with Swords in the upper right corner, I try to do gameplay events on different platforms, different games for different audiences pretty much every week. Unless I have a scheduling conflict or something. So you are hereby invited, and that's where I met Davon. We played Blur together on Xbox 360 a couple of weeks ago. And he asks the question that I have been asked many times before, which is, will there be or is there a chance of there being a Blur 2 for the next generation of consoles? So let's talk a little bit about Blur, which is one of my favorite games, certainly the last 5 years. I mean, I've had so much fun with Blur. Even if I did not work at Activision, I think that I would have still been behind Blur just as much as I have been. Blur was an arcade racing game, still is. I mean, people are playing it online. I'm still playing it online. Davon is still playing it online. But it received good reviews, but it did not sell as well as the company had hoped, right? So there are many factors that could make that happen. I personally think that one of the factors is that 8 days apart, 3 games, racing games that were sort of aimed at the same audience, sort of all came out at once, which is kind of ridiculous to me. So you had people that might have embraced each game individually, but not if they don't have the money to buy 3 games at once, let alone the time. So for whatever reason, Blur did not sell as well as it needed to sell, and not only did they not greenlight a sequel, but the developer closed its doors. Bizarre Creation was a developer that had really hugely talented skill set for racing games. Those people have since gone on to do other racing games you've probably played. Forza Horizon, Playground Games, has a lot of Bizarre alumni on it, and I can definitely feel it on that. But like any franchise you could mention, this is a pretty common question that I get about anything. You have a favorite game. Is sequel to my favorite game coming out for platform X? Or is there a chance that this old Activision IP that is currently inactive, that could come back at any point but hasn't yet, will be out again? Crash Bandicoot fans are very vocal in letting me know that they want to see a new Crash Bandicoot game. Blur fans would love to see a Blur 2. Interstate 76 fans would love to see that franchise restarted. The answer is I don't know. And nobody does. The things that cause a game to get greenlit, the things that would make a sequel come around, it's a combination of elements. First, obviously, the developer has to have a really good idea. Like, this is what we want to do with this property. This is how we believe that we can make it even better than it was, or honor the original thing and take it to a new place. There has to be good creative innovation. This is one of the things that Eric Hirschberg actually said about Guitar Hero. When Guitar Hero went into hibernation, he said, we're not bringing it back unless we have a really good idea and a really good reason to do it. It needed to come from the creative space. I'm happy to hear CEOs of game companies say that. I don't want them to just say, yeah, let's put this out because people remember that name. I don't think that's the way to do game development. So it starts with a great concept, but the other aspect is it can't just be a great game if you don't think there's an audience for it. If racing games right now are sort of cold, or if they're not selling very well, that could give a publisher pause and say, maybe now's not the right time. Good idea, but we don't think that we can sell it. And if they can't sell it, nobody gets paid. And, that's the video game business is a business. I totally understand this. So I'm not aware of any plans to do Blur 2. Believe me, I am on your side, and I would love to see Blur 2. It's a game I'm personally very passionate about. But the reality is Blur 1 did not sell well enough to garner a sequel, and I don't think that the arrival of new hardware will necessarily make that change anytime soon. Hopefully someday that game will get made, and hopefully all those elements will come into place. But I can tell you now that I don't know of any Blur 2 in development, and I'm not expecting Blur 2 to go into development anytime soon. Bad news this week on the One of Swords TV show. If you have a question for me for a future episode, send it to YouTube at oneofswords.com, and just go to oneofswords.com for all of my information, Playing with Swords events, giveaways, podcasts, news that you can trust, all kinds of fun stuff like that. And maybe I'll see you here next week. Hopefully you'll tune in again. Thanks. Bye.